Hey everybody, this is John from /bash, and today I am bringing you another malicious compliance Reddit video. If you are new to the channel, then subscribe, and ring that notifications bell so you don't miss out on the fun. In our first story, force me to take unpaid time off? It's going to be more time than you expect. Let's jump right in. I used to work at this one coffee shop, my first chain coffee shop after working only at local or family-run ones. Simply put, it was hell. Owners would micromanage everything without knowing anything about how the business ran, never listened to their staff, and only cared about the money. Typical out-of-touch owners of a business. I was hired to replace a manager that had walked out of one of their locations, leaving it with only part-time staff. I was told I was being hired on as the acting manager until they either hired someone else or they felt I would be a good fit for the position after my 6 months probation. I won't go into everything that went wrong because there's a lot, but to summarize, it was literal hell. I was expected to cover all no-shows, which had me working 90 to 100 hours a week. I wasn't allowed to fire anyone no matter how many things they did wrong. Someone actually showed up to work drunk, and I still wasn't allowed to fire them. And any changes I wanted to implement were shot down, like replacing old parts in the espresso machine, shortening our hours to save money on labor, bringing in items that customers would always ask for. I was stressed, overworked, and irritated as hell when the owner comes in to talk to me about sales for the store. We weren't making enough to warrant the hours I had scheduled, and he wasn't going to pay me any more overtime. I would only work the hours I'm scheduled, and if someone no-showed, I had to have someone else cover those shifts. I tried to explain to him that I only came in when no one else would cover. It just so happened that the people he allowed to continue to work here had terrible availability. Making the schedule was already hard enough. Getting someone other than myself to come in on their day off was next to impossible. On top of all that, I had to learn the ropes myself. There was no one to train me, so all the managerial knowledge, ordering, scheduling, I learned myself. No one other than me knew how to order coffee, had the numbers for the repair guys, anything other than making coffee and using the till. I was the only one that knew. He wasn't hearing any of it. All I'm hearing is excuses. This is your store. If you can't handle running it, I'll start looking for someone who will. Wasn't that the plan though? It's been 3 months since my probation period ended, and you never gave me the manager position, so I assumed you were looking for someone to take over. I think it's in your best interest to take some time off. Start thinking about your position here and whether you actually want to start moving up. I had mentioned in the interview I was looking forward to working my way up in the business. I can't. There's no one to cover me. You're taking this time off. Is this a paid break? No. Consider this a timeout for you to get yourself sorted. Take the 2 weeks to rest and we'll see what your position will be like when you get back. Owner, I can't really afford to take that amount of time off. I can't even take 2 days off without having to come in and cover. Don't worry about the business right now. It'll run without you. Now, to put into perspective, I was basically the manager at that point. I made the schedules, I did the orders, I knew the codes to the safe and the alarm. I wasn't allowed to hire someone to assist me, and no one worked enough time to be able to cover even half my shifts. I knew this, the staff knew this, customers knew it. I made sure to block all work numbers and spent those 2 weeks looking for another job. I managed to find one after a few days that paid significantly more. I sent my resignation email to payroll and the owner, knowing he never checks it, deleted my account off the POS system. Being a manager means I have access to it from home. I spent the rest of the leave catching up on well-deserved sleep, having blocked all work numbers. I'm not getting paid, so I'm not working. According to my coworkers, stuff started going wrong the next day. One of the openers didn't show and the next staff member didn't have keys. The owner wasn't answering his phone, so they left a message. The owner didn't show up until one of the regulars called asking if the place was closed down. He showed up 4 hours after they were supposed to open. The orders weren't done, inventory was missed, 4 no-shows, you name it, it went wrong. The owner tried every way he could to get a hold of me, even using a customer's phone to call me. Too bad I didn't answer any calls that weren't in my contacts already. After 2 weeks, I turn my phone back on and get a call the same day from the owner. We agree to meet the next day. "So, you've had some time to think." "I have. It's really given me perspective on my position here. We can start you back on your normal hours for now, and we're looking for a manager to take on more of your responsibilities." "Oh, that's good. I'm actually quitting." He was silent for a few minutes. I think he was waiting for me to tell him I was kidding. "Sucks for you, buddy. I'm serious. I've already emailed payroll and removed my login from the computer. Here are my keys. Good luck." And I left. The owner tried calling me a few times, but stopped once I told him to check his email. I was on okay terms with some of the staff that worked there, and apparently the majority of them had quit after I left. The owner did find a replacement pretty quickly, but without anyone to train them, the owner didn't know anything about running the business. They were flipped from the get-go and left pretty soon after they were hired. I'm always checking reviews from customers and employees, and they have consistently sucked for the past year and seem to be on a downward trend over the past year. Story 2. You'll take breaks when I tell you to. I used to work at a call center where we would get flooded with calls constantly. This is a story of how a busybody boss thought they understood everything since they were in charge. At my work, we were given 2 15-minute breaks and 1 45-minute lunch break. The breaks were scheduled into our day so you could see when they would be, but this would change day by day. My role was a bit different than the normal agents, as I was specifically dealing with the higher issue calls. These calls could take up to an hour to complete, and the caller would need to stay on the line unless they were fine with a call back later, but this was rarely the case. Since I never knew when I would be getting these calls, my break time were a shot in the dark if I would or wouldn't be on a call. I would just take them as soon as the call was done if they ever intersected, which they did 99% of the time. Enter my boss. During a performance review, I hit all the marks except for attendance. I asked about this as I know I missed a few days, but always with a reasonable update for time frame and never a no-show day where there is no warning that I'm not coming in. My boss stated that attendance also applies to break and lunch times, and since I rarely took them at the requested time, I was getting written up. I explained my role that they hired me for and the challenges involved. They did not care and stated I needed to take breaks when I was told to. I asked for them to send me an email so that I could print it out, put it on my desk, and never forget again. My boss smiled ear to ear, probably because they thought I was groveling at that point, and sure enough, they sent one, stating in the email, "You must take your breaks only when the schedule tells you to, no time else. There is no excuse." I saved it, printed it out, sent a copy to my own email, and followed it to the letter. Of course, that same day it happened. I had a long call that crossed over into my break time. I asked the customer if it would be okay for me to call them back. They said no. I told them that unfortunately I couldn't stay on the line as I had to take my break. They became enraged and demanded to speak with my boss. When I told my boss the problem, my boss said that I needed to apologize to the customer and finish the call. I showed my boss the email they had just sent to me and said, "You told me to take my break at this time, no matter what. I'm just doing what you told me to do. I'm taking my break. Would you like the customer transferred over to you, or should I just hang up?" They had me transfer the call over to them, but from that day on, I never had a missed attendance mark. God, busybody bosses are the worst. This is John from /bash. Please hit that like button to help with the almighty YouTube algorithm, and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.